Good afternoon, everyone. This is Victor Ling from NewStars Migration. It's my live section again. Today I will bring you definitely one of the major news for this financial year for ACT nomination. That is, there will be the long waiting occupation list, because previously occupation list was reviewed on a quarterly basis. So the last time the occupation was reviewed, a few months ago. But this we mentioned it in one of the previous video before. Since this financial year, ACT governments changed the frequency of the occupation list to once a year again. That didn't happen in the past 2 to 3 years. It was 6 months before, and then 4 months. Now it's back to 12 months for the occupation review. That means if your occupation is on the list, you're very safe for the coming 12 months. If your occupation is not on the list, then very bad luck. You wouldn't see that coming back in the coming 12 months. So that's pretty much the backgrounds. The summary here is very good news for the occupation list. Overall, ACT government actually increased 95 occupation to the list. That is a lot. 95 occupations to the list. The reason why they're doing this is the government saying they want to address the skill shortage. So they increase more occupations, adding more people with different occupation, make them eligibles, at least eligibles on the occupation list to apply. In the meantime, to address the labor shortage, in another way, supporting the industries. Okay, so 95 new occupations. There was a lot of new occupations coming back to the list. We're going to talk about some of the particular occupation lists which been frequent as since the publishment from this morning. I'll talk about some of the occupations to you. Before we start that, ACT government also provides some information to agents regarding to the summaries of last financial year. Overall, with the number of places available for the last financial year, this financial year we got 2,000 allocation, and on average ACT approval 171. So pretty mathematically evenly distributed throughout the year. 171 places every month throughout 12 months. In the meantime, that is about 19%, nearly 20% of the refusal rate. It remains fairly high. It's not extremely high, but 20% means 2 persons out of 10 will get negative outcome from ACT governments when you apply for the nomination. Here, ACT government also addressing the main reason for refusing is actually the evidence of the current employment. For example, we all know the current employment. If you want to apply for 491, you need to demonstrate 3 months continuous employment, at least 20 hours per week. And for 180 is 6 months. So a lot of people did not actually being able to successfully demonstrate they are currently employed in that position. In the meantime, some of the people may be not providing sufficient documents to prove the employment they claim. So that's the non-suggestions is when you want to apply for ACT nomination, make sure you understand the guideline, make sure you get your documents collected and in the right sequence, and make sure that your documents are complete. In the meantime, the office also asking the agents to pass information to all those people who want to apply for ACT nomination. Do not attach unnecessary documents. So if there was not the documents required in the guideline, do not attach them. It does not add any values to your application. It actually drags down the assessment time. So you are giving more trouble for the officer to go through the documents to tell you are eligible or not. For example, there's just name a few examples. For example, photos. Why would you attach photos? I know some of the people try to provide documents to prove the relationship, but all the ACT government is asking is civil certificates or other legal documents or vivo check, those documents. But you don't need to attach the photos. Okay, photos. Of you and your husband, and you and your wife or boyfriend, girlfriend, that is not necessary. Utility bills now is also not required. Plane tickets, school certificates, birth certificates, none of those documents. Lease agreement as well. None of the documents are mandatory documents for ACT nomination. So do not attach them. You are submitting a lot of documents to the officer. Yeah, you're actually causing them trouble, not adding any good to your application at all. In the meantime, another suggestion to everyone is try to label all of your documents in the right way. For example, particular bank statements. If you could go like bank statement and mark the date of the bank statements will be really helpful, because it's actually making the documents more readable and making the documents more easy to be recognized by the officer. It will alternatively make your case easier for the officer to assess. Okay, so and also do not again, the conclusion is do not provide unnecessary documents, and try to mark and organize the necessary documents in the right way. Okay, overall it's 20% refusal rate. One of the suggestions from me is if you're really good at organizing documents, then do it. If you're very clear about what you understand about the ACT guideline, then you could do it. Otherwise, go for a professional agency and looking for a migration agent for that help. Okay, that's the sound feedback for the last financial year. In the meantime, I will talk about small business pathway as well, a bit of time. Government saying there's an increasing number of small business, pathways, the principle is they have more applications for sure. As time goes, there will be more and more applications into the pathway. And the principle here, that one of the principles still be working for the next financial year is when the AC governments issue the invitations, they will still try to follow the points. So the points for a small business owner stream will be the average minimum score points in each visa subclasses. So what does it mean is if you want to get 491 invitation, again, the minimum score for 491 invitation will still apply for the small business owner invitation. So small business owner people will still enjoy pretty much either the same or the probably lower points as the 491 critical list stream. So that's what the purpose for small business owner. Like I mentioned in the previous video before, the people who make extra efforts to do the investment will enjoy the benefits from the points. You'll enjoy the lowest invitation points in your subclasses, either 491 or 190. List principle will still remain the same. That's actually giving a lot of confidence to people who run in the business. You can keep on running the business. They will get you benefit from in the point perspective. Okay, and on top of that, that's also some information about applications for renominations. We sometimes also have clients asking for apply for different second nomination. Some people who get 491 nomination and then they meet the criteria, or they think they meet the criteria of 190, and then they go for another nomination, or due to some common reasons, their 491 visa get rejected, their 190 visa get refused, they want to go for a different nomination. The general attitude from AC government is they will go for one place, one person principle. So you get one nomination, either 190 or 491s from the office, unless you have very strong reasons to ask in the second one. So very be careful about your nomination, because that is your only chance in general. Another information is about a statutory declaration. That is a mandatory document, because that's for the purpose to prove your employment, and also that's the documents for you to claim the points, either from the length of employment or type of employment. That is very important. Just remind you, statutory declaration is a legal document in Australia. In the meantime, if ACT government will send the statutory declaration to the Department of Home Affairs if they have concerns about the nature of the employment. So if they have a concern about your employment, either during the assessment process, or maybe they give you, they nominate your nomination, but after a few months, due to some reason, they dig into your documents again and they find something suspicious, they do have the right to send the documents to the Department of Home Affairs for further assessment. So I think what you guys will know what I'm trying to say. Just make sure your statutory declaration is according to your actual employment. Okay, and the following information is about the allocation places. We have the occupation list now in front of us, 95 more occupations. Now the next critical factors for the next financial year is the allocation places. We don't have the number yet. We should have the number, I expect, in the coming few weeks. But one of the things we know, or we can suspect, is the first thing we know is AC government will try to remain the same for the allocation split between 491 and 190. So there will be 30% for 190 and 70% for 30% for 190 and 70% for 491. So it will pretty much the same like this year, 3 and 7. That will be the split. That gives you an indication. 491 will still be much easier than 190 in terms of getting the invitation. The points for 190 will definitely be higher than 491. We're talking about 20-25 points, even 30 points higher. So that's most of you will be much more likely to get invited under 491 pathway. That's also another suggestion for people who do not have a very strong points, and you're not willing to contribute another year or two to generate more points for 190 purpose. 491 is realistic. Okay, so that's one thing. Second thing is the government suggesting this again, in terms of the point things, nobody can guarantee it will stay like that, but they give you indication from the next financial year for 190, the average points for average point for around the occupations for 190 will be around 85 points. Subject to the application number and nomination places available. For 491, it will be roughly around 65 points. That is actually much better. If you're going to see 85 points for 190 and 65 points for 491, it's way better than what we're seeing from January till now. The points actually drop significantly. 65 is not too bad for 491. It used to be 65 when we see back in a year or two. 85 is a bit higher than it before, but again, not extremely crazy. You're not expecting people to get 95, 100 points for 190. 85 is realistic, considering the limited places of 190 available. And when we talk about those places, it is again for both onshore and offshore applicants. So next financial year there will be still offshore competition as well. Invitation, the government suggesting they will try to do invitation on 490 basis. In the past financial year, we see some period of time they do weekly invitation, and then after February it's not even weekly, it's not even 490, sometimes every 3 weeks or 4. But in the next financial year they will try to do on 490 basis. Depends on, of course, the numbers of the application. If they have a lot of application, they probably have to go for more frequent invitation in order to clear out the pathway. So 490 is indication. It's pretty much the same like what we see in the past few years. So this is some information apart from the occupation. What we can see, I think something useful is, first of all, we know the allocation splitting will be 30% to 70%, and second thing is we understand the assessment standard. That's remained the same in ACT actually for a long time. They've been very strict about documents, okay, because it's about the point system, and the points all the applicants have to show the evidence for the points. So you want to make sure the documents actually telling the story, telling that you are entitled to these 5 points or that 10 points. So that's what the documents for. For the small business pathway owners and potential applicants, that just give you confidence. This is a good program in general, and it will stay quite stable, and the points will remain low, within the metric system. Let's talk about occupation list. Okay, I say there was 95 occupations actually get add back onto the list, and that's a lot of occupations. I haven't seen 95 occupation, such a big numbers of occupation coming back to occupation list for long time. 95%. The occupation list now in ACT almost doubled. But there are some occupation we think it's not popular ones, which means you don't see a lot of application numbers. There are some will attract potential applicants in the following months. There's a couple ones I want to mention. First one, it's a financial investment advisor. This occupation was on the list before and it gets removed, but this time it will stay on the list for another 12 months. Financial investment advisor is suitable for those people who have financial background, saying you have a bachelor degree, master degree, coming from a financial major, and then you have experience in a financial institute regarding giving financial advice. All you need to have is 12-month highly relevant working experience. Then you'll be able to have the skill assessment. So that's a good news for those people who have met both the qualification and experience criteria. That's one of the occupation, financial investment advisor. And next one is the translator and interpreter. We all know there's an institution called NATI. A lot of people have the translate certificates or the NATI certificates, but you need to get it assessed for migration purpose. So for interpreter and translator, it's back on this again. So if you have the certificates level 3 that was states it is suitable for migration purpose, then again it's back on the list. And there are also quite a lot of engineers back on this. There's a great news. I think one of the big news of this occupation, this is the mechanical and engineering technologists. It's back on the list now. I have mentioned this in the previous videos a few times. That is the attitude against mechanical engineers and engineering technologists previously was that ACT do not have manufacturing sectors, well, not the technical ones, so they do not need a lot of medical engineer in general. That's one of the reasons medical engineer never gets on the list in the past 1 year too. Engineering technology, it's the skill assessment which is suitable for most of the engineer majors to get. So once you have engineering technology open, that means it's actually opening to most of the engineer major applicants. So these two skill assessment occupation was not on the list for a long time, but this time surprisingly they came back on the list again. Probably, I don't know, because the information we're getting is AC government this time tried to addressing labor shortage, even there was not very strong demand in some way. But there's a very complex reason they add in some of the occupation. But very, very good news for medical engineering, mechanical engineering students, and those people have engineering technologists skill assessment. If you have medical engineer, it will stay on the list for 12 months. So try your best, see if you get invitation in the following 12 months. Okay, and there are other engineers as well, production engineer, industrial engineer. So combining those who are already existing on the list, there were actually lot of occupation with engineering titles. A lot of occupation with engineering titles. Engineer now, along with the IT, accounts for quite a big percentage of the occupation list. So engineers. And there's another occupation back on this. It's called architecture draft person. In the meantime, one of the sad news is architectures and landscape architectures is not on the list, and which means they will not be back on the list for the 12 months time. We get some inquiry about this information as well. The feedback from the government is they consider the occupation is on the very complex reason, but the information they're getting, there was not very strong demands of architecture persons in ACT based the data they have. But you have architect job person. For those people who are architecture major backgrounds, if you have 1 year working experience as architecture job person, you can still get a skill assessment as architecture job person. That will provide you an alternative pathway for ACT migration purpose. But in general, there are a lot of interesting occupations which I haven't seen. They are on the list for a long time. So, for example, dog trainers, horse trainers. These are back on this again. Tennis coaches, swimming coaches, horse riding coaches. These are very interesting occupations. They are on the list again. There's another occupation I want to mention, massage therapist. If you have relevant qualification experience, it's back on this again as well. And there was a lot of tradies back on this this time as well. Bricklayers, stonesmen, panel beaters, solid pasters, a lot of occupations about trading skills. That is what we realize. What happened to Australia now is they need a lot of tradies and a lot of workers in the force. There was such a significant labor shortage everywhere, pretty much across all industries. So 95 occupation increase, it's a response from ACT skill migration team to address this problem. That definitely brings a lot of people hope again, because your occupation is finally on the list again. And but now that's another reason I think we should give us some strong hope to the increase of the allocation number, which we're going to see in a few weeks. When the ACT government considering to adding back 95 occupation days, they must know, or they must suspect, they were getting quite a big increase in the allocation places. Otherwise, this is 95 new occupations here. I know not all those occupations will attract significant amounts of the applications, but some of the occupations will definitely attract some applications numbers. So that means in this coming financial year, we're going to see more people eligible to apply, more people, at least they can submit the metrics. So there will be more and more metrics in the system. They need to have more places to cope with the demand. So let's wait and see if the places are actually somewhere about 3,000 to 4,000 places. If that's the case, we're looking about 1,000 places, roughly 1,000 places for 190, and the rest will be for 491. So that's looking back to history in ACT nomination program, we're coming from some about 600, 800 places, then 1,200 places, and then gradually to 2,000 places. If this time we'll be able to jumping up to more than 3,000 places, and ideally probably 4,000 places or even more, we're going to a big ACT migration era. So it's a big ACT migration era. It's a big metrics time. 4,000 is not a small number anymore. That's a big number. So if that's the case, we definitely see more people have the chance for migration in ACT. In the meantime, if in early July, if one of your occupation, if your occupation was not on the list in the place you stay, if you stay in New South Wales and you didn't see much of good hope and chance in New South Wales, then you can think about ACT if your occupation is here. Because now one of the things we get complaints or people have some doubts about ACT programs, it's the frequency. It's the too frequent. The occupation gets changed too frequent. Every 4 months they come here. If they come in from other states, once they arrive in ACT, they're taking their time to find a job, settle down, then boom, your occupation is out of this. It's a waste of time. But now if it's 12 months, they give you adequate of time to get prepared, get settled down. If you're looking for 491, that's you have 6 months, 8 months of time, to meet the criteria, a couple months, to submit the application. Then the occupation gets reviewed again. So 12 months is a good gapping period. It's a good period of time for you to come up with something and make your decision. So now this is one of the bricks making ACT metrics system stronger and more stable in general. And in the following days and weeks, we will see, let's see, first of all, this occupation list will be published on the website probably tomorrow or Friday or maybe next Monday, and then the guideline as well. So when we say the guideline, the official documents for nomination will be updated on the website as well. But for that one, what we get from the ACT governments, there will be no major change of the guideline. Occupation list 95 occupation new, 3 not very important occupation, not very popular occupations removed from the list, and then the next one, let's see, in the following 2 to 4 months, 2 to 4 weeks, let's see the increase of the allocation, and then I'll talk to you again if we see a big increase of the occupation list. And all the best luck for the new ACT migration year. This is Victor from NewStars Migration. Thank you for following my live section. I try my best every time to come up with the news, come up with a summary once I have the information. And if you have any questions about your own case and your own questions, you're always welcome to book consultation through us on our Facebook page, and we'll try to make time for you. Thank you very much for today. Thank you.